I want to introduce you to a book called From Truth Comes Reconciliation, edited by Rodney A. Clifton and Mark DeWolf. Mark DeWolf was a student in a residential school. I think the point of this book, though it's not explicitly stated anywhere, is that yes, from truth, you perhaps could get reconciliation. But what do you get if what you've got is half truths, exaggerations? In some cases, I would venture posing as the truth. What do you get from that? I think that from my point of view, what I would just say is that what you get from a system that doesn't value truth is the injustice. And there's certainly been an injustice in terms of the slander that's been perpetrated against Canadians of that era, of Canada as a country. Because what they didn't do, for example, in the Truth and Reconciliation report, in the summary at least, which is the only part that anyone ever reads, is include all of the, I think it would have been hundreds or maybe even thousands contained in the Truth and Reconciliation report itself of positive stories coming from the Truth and Reconciliation process. They're buried in the body of the work. What people read is the summary, and the summary emphasized all the negative things. And the other problem with the Truth and Reconciliation report, and these are just two stunners, that there's no way that you could expect the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to have come up with the truth. The whole thing is absolutely preposterous. Because number one, the people who gave testimony at the Truth and Reconciliation report stood to gain by exaggerating the stories or by making them up completely. There's a financial gain to be had by the people who gave testimony because they would get more in compensation. So do you expect the truth to come out of a situation like that? I wouldn't. It's preposterous. And in a sense, what the Truth and Reconciliation Commission did is put Canada on trial. The witnesses were paid for negative testimony, and there was no cross-examination. There was never any opportunity for anybody to stand up and say, hang on, this story doesn't make sense. Expecting the truth to come out of that is ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. Which isn't to say that there wasn't a lot of horrible things that happened. Everybody's accepted that. If you've listened to enough, what I would have to believe is heartfelt testimony. I mean, it's just my reaction. I believe a lot of bad stuff happened. But I think a lot of really good things happened as well. And I don't think that the intention behind it was entirely negative. I mean, you could just ask yourself the question, what would have happened if the residential schools hadn't existed? And that a lot of those kids wouldn't have had any education at all. Would that really have been beneficial to those students? I don't think so. And there's other instances where the popular narrative anyways is just totally inaccurate. You know, they'll say things like children would be beaten for speaking their First Nation, their first language in schools. Well, okay, maybe on occasion that did happen, but if the whole purpose was to eliminate the language spoken by the students as a mother language, why is it that so many church leaders and teachers made an effort to learn the language of their students? Would they learn the language of their students with the intention of preventing their students from speaking that language? It doesn't make any sense. Nor does it make any sense that the whole purpose would be to kill this language when it was the priests and the teachers who went to the trouble of creating a phonetic script for these languages, for writing dictionaries, for writing grammars, with the purpose of preserving the languages. You know, it just doesn't make sense. It's a lie. Or it's a half-truth. From what I've heard is that they were quite strict in class. You had to speak English. That was quite strict. But there's testimony in this book from students who said, "What are you talking about? They never prevented us from speaking our native language when we were going to bed or out in the field or whatever. And there's also been claims, I've heard this from two different places now, where the kids who didn't go to school managed to preserve their languages less well than the ones who went to school. So the ones that went to school preserved their first language better than the ones who didn't. So it doesn't add up. It's just another, well, it's another lie. You want to avoid that word, but it certainly seems like a lie, doesn't it?